So today, and actually in the coming weeks, there are a number of topics I'm going to want to talk about. But obviously things change, and news is fast breaking these days, so they'll be intermittently interrupted as well. Among these topics that have caught my attention are the issues of Gina Haspel and Mike Pompeo, which will lead into what actually I talk about today. The Austin terrorist bombings. Yes, I called it terrorist. It's because a white boy doesn't mean it's not terrorism. The Yemen uh, bill to by Senators Bernie Sanders, Mike Lee, and Chris Murphy to stop the impending genocide by the Saudis with U.S. support in Yemen, as well as the Saudi visit. You got to see video of this shit. Trump just being a total bitch with regards to just like just being a total lackey for the Saudis. And in addition, some good stories too. Looking at what Larry Krasner has done as the Philadelphia district attorney. He's done a lot of good things to combat mass incarceration, cash bail, a lot of really oppressive things, things that attack the poor, attack minorities. So that's been a very good thing. And then I will probably touch on some. I know I don't want to do too much horse race, but I do like horse race politics. So I'll do some discuss some things like the primaries impending and any type of special elections. So I'm really excited to get into that list. There's a lot of real good stuff in there. And I was really planning to start that actually today, actually yesterday before the snowstorm hit. But naturally, current events have taken place, and they're a little bit related to some of the things there. And one particular issue that I'm going to be ranting about for the next 15 minutes probably, but we'll see how long it goes. So I've previously mentioned about Trump's cabinet shuffling and really the downside to a lot of the moves he's making, the type of people he's putting in. And I did mention that there were rumors at the time that H.R. McMaster was going to be replaced by John Bolton. And lo and behold, tonight it happened. So this is something that especially people who actually bought into Trump's lines about him being kind of dovish on foreign policy really need to take account of. All right, this was Trump. One of his most popular lines. He would say that the Iraq War was a mistake. He wouldn't have done it. And now, look what's happened. He's brought in John Bolton, who is not only one of the most unrepentant defenders of the Iraq War, a kind of the king of neocons, so to speak, but a guy who's also written about wanting to attack North Korea, not with negotiation, but like now, like he's already making the case. You know, in 2014 he wanted to bomb Iran, I believe, too, or North Korea, or a combination. He wants to bomb a lot of shit. My point is, so when this is really the final nail in the coffin now. People like me have always thought that all that talk was horseshit, but this is definitive proof that this is just lying. Trump is lying. Because when you put in people like John Bolton, it means you're not interested in peace. It means you are only interested in one thing, and that's war. And all you people who voted for Trump, I hear you, I understand why you did it, but now look. You thought that he was going to bring the troops home and all that. No, he's sending your kids to die, all right? He's sending your kids to Tehran. He's sending your kids to Pyongyang to die. End of story. Well, not exactly end of story. So, not only has John Bolton been involved in these type of, just he has never met a war he didn't like. He loves war. The guy just loves war. He's so radical that a lot of Republicans are terrified of this motherfucker. All right, George Bush had a Republican Senate, and he couldn't get him through to be ambassador to the UN. That's how extreme this guy is. Because they were like, "Fuck this, we're done. We don't want this guy." So we're talking about a guy who's just a radical neocon. Who's all about intervention, all about bombing, all about sending your kids to die on some foreign land over oil. or whatever the hell his own personal interest is to make money. And you gotta ask, why are we doing that? And a lot of Trump people would claim that Trump is a dove, that he's against the Iraq War. Well, he's just brought in one of the key people, one of the key ideological architects of this, of that war, and he wants to start more wars just like that. So you got to ask, where's Trump in this too? The simplest explanation is Trump was lying to you. The guy doesn't have an ideology. He doesn't have a belief system, and now he's buddy buddy with the Saudis, who would love these kind of wars. So that's all I have to say about that. Hopefully Trump gets tired of his mustache, or he gets tired of, just his ways and his like just general insanity, because this guy is unhinged. But if not, we better get ready, and I hope it doesn't happen. And because a lot of people, innocent civilians, and a lot of military servicemen are going to die because of this guy's impulses and whims. And all we can do is hope to God that doesn't happen, and get ready and try and win the next couple elections. And hopefully the Democrats have that kind of competence, which if you see next few weeks and what I've already said, I'm not 100% sure on that. So we'll see what happens. I just want to also touch on a couple things kind of tangentially related to this. And you got to look at, it's actually it just passed the 15th anniversary of Bush starting the war in Iraq, which was an incredible disaster. Yes, Saddam Hussein was a piece of shit and a bad guy, and I have family members who are directly impacted by that in the 80s during the Iran-Iraq war. So you don't have to tell me the guy was evil, okay? But at the same time, that war was a disaster, and how many kids died, had to go there and die. How much money was wasted there? That money could go to infrastructure, could go to helping veterans, could go to single payer health care, that could go to, educating the kids, tuition free college or anything like that. How much went to that? And how much? So blood and treasure. How much died? On top of that, how many people in Iraq died? I mean, it's just we're not learning from our mistakes, and we really got to start fucking doing that. We don't learn. We don't learn in our foreign policy, and we haven't in a long fucking time. It's just that. And I highly recommend looking at Jeremy Scahill's Intercepted from this past week. It's on iTunes. And he starts the episode by talking about just the history of the U.S. and Iraq, and some of the different events there. I think it'll be very enlightening and very interesting. And you can talk about Iran, you can talk about other countries, and Latin America too. We just don't have a good history of getting involved in other people's business. Which brings us to this week, and we had the Saudis in town in Washington wooing Donald Trump, and seems like they may have already wooed his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. But I saw a clip, and it's pretty disgusting, of Trump having a poster board saying, hey, look at all these weapons we're giving them. Look at how great it is. And, of course, he put it in the context of jobs. Or maybe we can put those jobs to fixing our roads and bridges and a lot of other things like that. But he wants to use those and give those jobs and build a weapon system to kill a whole bunch of innocent people abroad. So the Saudis have been engaged in a very bloody operation in Yemen, and they've been fighting Houthi-backed rebels. So Houthis are Shiites. They may or may not be backed by Iran. I suspect probably they have been in some regard. But at the same time, the Saudis have been bombing weddings, they've been bombing funerals, they've been bombing, any type of civilian schools. They've been bombing all these places. Now, if a country we didn't like was doing that, what would we call that? Genocide. We call that war crimes. But we don't do it because it was our friends the Saudis and they're buying our weapons. So some senators have said, that's not a good idea. Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut, a more kind of centrist Democrat, but very good on foreign policy. Uh, Bernie Sanders, we all know who Bernie Sanders is, independent from Vermont, star of the left. And then Mike Lee, a Tea Party guy from Utah. All three. So this was a bipartisan effort in a lot of ways. So they said, they wanted to cut Saudi support and stop this because what are we doing giving all this stuff to the Saudis and causing all this trouble and killing so many people? And it could not pass the Senate because they're bought. They are bought by the military industrial complex. They are bought by the Gulf countries who load their pockets with monies. So I want to be crystal clear that, in this battle between Iran and Saudi Arabia, I mean, Iran is not necessarily a good actor in this too. I mean, my friends, if you ever talk to my friends, they'll know my feelings on the Iranian government, and it involves a lot of swearing. I'm not a fan in the slightest of the theocracy, of the whole idea behind it, and that's just that. But at the same time, let's see who we're aligning ourselves with. Saudi Arabia. Where were most of the hijackers from? Saudi Arabia. Where is this whole poisonous mindset of Wahhabism, this extreme, vicious brand of Islam, very, fundamentalist version of Islam, which is where Al Qaeda came from, which is where ISIS came from. This whole mentality, where did it come from? Saudi Arabia. What do they do? What are their policies, on capital punishment? They just let women drive cars just recently, but on women's right, all these things, it's terrible. It's the worst. Okay, this is who we're aligning ourselves. This is who we're giving weapons to. Let that sink in for a second. Where is that a good idea? I mean, step aside from the fact that they're bombing a country into oblivion, killing a whole bunch of women and children. I mean, just leaving that aside, as terrible as it sounds, giving this country that. And all it comes down to because they have oil, and we want their oil. What makes it worse? Trump, the Republicans, and even some Democrats, these politicians, I can see what's going on there. What's even more, I don't want to say more disgusting, but what's also disgusting is how the mainstream media has handled this. Tom Friedman, Ignatius, all these writers from New York Times and other big magazines, just this past week, 60 Minutes, what are they doing? They're bringing in the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, saying he's a revolutionary leader. Because he let women drive, he's now a revolutionary leader. I don't know, maybe I'm just being a little overly progressive, but you had to do a whole lot fucking more than let women drive. You see the stuff he's doing. People who blog there, they can get arrested. They can get the death penalty. What is this? I mean, what are we doing? And we're going to have 60 Minutes go and put a big, like puff piece on him and say, we need to back this guy. So how many pieces like that? What are we doing? I'm going to keep saying that. What the fuck are we doing? I mean, this is exactly the type of stuff that got us in trouble so many times. All right, we got to stop doing this shit because it's going to end up killing us all one day. And maybe now that we got John fucking Bolton in there, it's going to kill us all anyways. This fucking horseshit. So anyways, I don't know how much more I can keep going right now without totally blowing a gasket. But I'll be talking about these issues over the next few weeks. I'll also be talking a lot about domestic issues because Lord knows there's a lot of stuff going on domestically that needs to be discussed too. And I hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to another one coming up hopefully on this weekend. Like I said before, I plan on doing mostly like on Wednesday and the weekend. Yesterday got a little bit chaotic, so I'm doing this one on Thursday. So thanks and have a good night.